morning. Bright and early start today. Let's get back in the van here and show you what the deal is for today. Today we're going to be removing this headliner here. And we're not going to pull the whole thing out. It's a pretty involved process to pull it out, and we really don't need to. All we have to do is drop it so that we can get to the roof panels that are in there to put our sound deadening mat and some insulation up in there. So in order to do that, I think I mentioned before we cut off from yesterday, there's a couple screws up underneath here that we need to get to on both sides. And there's these clips, I believe. There's 3 of them up in here that we need to release in order to just let this drop down to a comfortable spot for us to access everything we need to do and do the work we need to do up in there. So let me get a ladder and stand up there and have a look. I've watched a couple videos on how to do it, and it took me, I don't know, I must have gone through, I don't know, 6 or 7 videos total to find 2 that sort of showed me how to remove those clips up in there. I'll try to get a good video of how it's done. Hopefully that can help someone else out in the future. But all right, let me get a ladder and we'll climb up there and get to it. So these screws that are up in here, lighting is not the greatest, but these screws that are in here, it's a 9/32 inch socket that you need to get these 2 undone on this side and then the 2 on the driver's side. What I want to do is just allow this to drop. I don't want to pull it completely, just to drop. Pulling it completely would require removing these plugs here. There's like 4 of them up there, and then getting the bolts out of there and pulling this whole shelf down. I really don't want to do that. I just want to loosen these so it drops. So when I loosen the clips, this whole thing will just drop down enough for me to get behind there. I'll see how that works. Success. I was able to pull these clips, actually push them. So if you see here, let me get up in here. So these clips have a little notch in them, and those notches were pushed onto these pegs, these plastic pegs. So I just took basically a putty knife and I put it onto the edge of the clip, and I hit it with the back of my hand, with the heel of my hand, and it just popped right off. So we are good to go. There's enough room in here for me to get in and put the sound deadening mat, and then we will stuff it with insulation and we'll be good to go. I'll put it all back together. I forgot to mention, when we pulled the headliner down, I know you saw in the video, the clips that were holding this up here were, they had pulled free from the back of the headliner, and they were just kind of flapping a little bit. They're on these 3 bumps right here, these 3 spots. Well, in order for me to securely reattach the headliner onto the posts that come out of the ceiling, out of the roof of the van with those clips, I had to reattach the clips to the back of the headliner. And I used Loctite, this Loctite Stick and Seal Extreme Conditions. We've had this for a little while. It'll hold fabrics and metal and glass and ceramic and everything. So I put the clips back onto the posts, and then I lifted them up slightly, and I put a dab of this glue underneath all 3, and then I ran a bead of it along the front edge of all 3 to make sure it's sealed in. And then we put a 2x4 just across here, and we used a brace to hold that 2x4 in place to put just a slight little bit of pressure on that until it dried. and it worked like a charm. The headliner now is really solid up there. It's not going to drop. It's not going to go anywhere. But I wanted to mention that because I know the video did show that those clips, the brackets that go onto those posts, was loose from the headliner. So Loctite Stick and Seal, extreme conditions, worked great.